In a moment that would ripple through the marble halls of Congress and ignite a national conversation, the chamber fell into a stunned silence, an electric silence after a single sharp command rang out, "Sit down, boy." Some lawmakers gasped, some froze, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It was the kind of moment that breaks the usual rhythm of political theater, the kind that pierces through the polished speeches and calculated gestures, and it came from none other than Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, directed at Representative Kennedy, whose calm response would leave the entire chamber breathless. For those watching from the gallery, the spark of drama arrived without warning. The House had gathered for what was expected to be a routine debate, tense, perhaps, but predictable. Yet beneath the surface, emotions had been simmering for weeks. Lawmakers were tired, frustrated, and increasingly divided. Kennedy, the youngest face on the floor that day, had been pushing relentlessly for an amendment underscoring transparency and accountability, a provision many older members viewed as disruptive. As he rose to speak, notes trembling slightly in his hand, resolve sharp in his eye, Pelosi leaned forward. Those close enough later recalled the faint tightening of her jaw, the subtle flicker of irritation. Kennedy had taken the floor 3 times already that morning, determined to make his case, and this time, as he began outlining the consequences of ignoring government oversight, Pelosi cut in sharply. "Sit down, boy," she said, her voice echoing with a tone that felt equal parts command and warning. The chamber erupted not with noise, but with energy. A wave of disbelief swept across the room. Some members exchanged glances, unsure whether they had heard correctly. Others stared straight ahead, unwilling to get involved. Kennedy froze. A young lawmaker, brimming with idealism, now stood at the center of a storm. But then, something shifted. Kennedy lifted his head slowly. The tremble in his notes faded. He placed both hands firmly on the podium, and when he finally spoke, his voice, though soft, carried farther than the Speaker's command. "Madam Speaker," he said, "I was sent here by people who were told to sit down their entire lives. I won't dishonor them by doing the same." Gasps, a few murmurs, one audible "whoa." The room leaned in. Kennedy continued, this time with the steadiness that surprised even his closest allies. "Respectfully," he said, "I will sit down when my duty is done, not before." It was the kind of moment that transforms the debate into a story of one lawmakers would recount for days, then weeks, then much longer. And as if struck by the seriousness in his tone, Pelosi eased back in her chair. Her expression changed. Some said it softened, others said it hardened. But undeniably, she listened. With the Speaker silent, the rest of Congress took its cue. Kennedy finished his remarks uninterrupted, and when he finally stepped back, the applause, hesitant at first, then spreading, filled the room. Behind closed doors later that afternoon, the tension continued. Senior lawmakers argued that Kennedy had overstepped. Younger ones insisted he had demonstrated courage. But the real change began when Pelosi herself requested to meet him privately. No cameras, no audience, just a closed office, 2 chairs, and a shared moment of human honesty. Accounts vary on exactly what was said behind that door. Aides only share the broad strokes, that Pelosi admitted her phrasing had been harsh, and that Kennedy acknowledged his passion had blindsided some of the veteran members. But what stood out in every retelling was how the conversation ended with both lawmakers agreeing that Congress needed more transparency, more communication, and, above all, more willingness to listen. Over the following days, something unexpected happened. The amendment Kennedy had fought for dismissed repeatedly before it was revised, strengthened, and eventually included in the final bill. It wasn't perfect. No legislation ever is. But it was a step forward, a tangible result born from a clash that might easily have spiraled into deeper division. Instead, it became a breakthrough. Observers later pointed to this moment as a reminder of something Congress too often forgets, that progress sometimes surfaces in the friction between generations, that respect can be rebuilt even after sharp words, and that leadership is not only measured by age or tenure, but by character. For Kennedy, the moment cemented his role as a rising voice, one who wouldn't be intimidated by power, but also one willing to work with it. For Pelosi, It became a reminder of the evolving nature of the institution she had spent her life shaping, and for the American public, it left a powerful and unexpected message. No matter who tells you to sit down, if you're fighting for what's right, stand taller.